This interview is brought to you by Burn Up Coaching and the 21-Day Challenge. If you're an entrepreneur or a high achiever, you're feeling stuck, overwhelmed, lost, unclear on your purpose, the 21-Day Challenge is the reignition spark for you to get clear on your purpose, be able to break it down into bite-sized steps, and then be able to have daily habits that help you achieve those top priorities and top goals in your life. So if you're interested and committed in your 21-Day Challenge, send me a message on Facebook or chris@beyourgps.com. Looking forward to hearing from you about your next 21-Day Challenge. Next up is the iTunes review of the week, and it's by Melissa C. Melissa says, enthusiasm and energy. This guy has enough energy to spare, and it helps me feel spunky and enthusiastic again. Yay! Thanks so much, Melissa. If you want to give us a review and have a chance to be shouted out on our 12-hour marathon all day long, go to beyourgps.com/iTunes and give us a review there, or search for Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self on iTunes or on Facebook, and you can go leave us a review like that. Now, this next man is going to be diving into some seriously powerful topics. I'm so excited about masculinity, about sexuality, about communication in the 21st century as a man, especially. And I'm like stoked for this conversation. So I know you will be. You're going to get tons of information, find out how you can really dive into your masculinity and that whole conversation to understand more and be more effective in life, have more happiness, more fulfillment, and truly become your greatest possible self. So stay through all the way till the end of this interview. Take notes, get your pen and paper ready, get your phone out, take notes, whatever that is for you, so that you can grow into your best self, because this is going to be hot, ladies and gentlemen. So Robert Kandell is the creator of unHIDDEN for Men. He is the host of the well-known podcast Tuff Love, an accomplished teacher, avid writer, coach, and lecturer committed to helping men find themselves and utilize their internal power to live their best lives in love and on purpose. He also contributes daily to his Living unHIDDEN community at facebook.com/groups/unHIDDEN. And he is here blessing us with his presence today. Robert, are you ready to rock this, brother?
I've been really accused of having a lot of energy my entire life, but I think I've met my match. I think I might have to bow. We'll see.
We'll see.
Energetic, but yes, I'm ready to rock. Take me.
Awesome, man. It might just be, at the beginning, all for show, and then by the end of the interview, you'll be taking the crown. Maybe.
Well, yeah. Well, let's make it a win-win, and the listeners will be the winners of the.
That's right.
Sure.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, man. So thanks for being on, and we start every interview off by diving into the theme of the day, which is today a purpose worth dying for. Now, this concept of having something that's so important to you that you would give your life for, or you would do whatever it takes as long as it takes, you'd stay up late, all those things. How has this concept showed up for you, Robert, in your life?
I think it was instilled in me that my purpose is my energy force. So we can talk about my story, but one of the snapshots is at 44, I had sold my business. I had gotten a 7-figure buyout. I was in Venice Beach, California. I didn't really have to work, for 10 or 12 years, spending a comfortable lifestyle in California. And I could just, and maybe even extend that. And what I did is I took like a week off, and then I created my consulting business, and I just started again, because I can't imagine a life of just sitting around, golfing, traveling. I don't have judgment on it. I think people who can do it is amazing. But for me, that's like death. Death is like sitting still and not being part of it. And so my purpose, my 10 years that I did with the company before that was really giving people permission, approving of who they are, and reflecting approval, regardless. Like the worst thing possible. Someone being a pedophile, someone having kink, someone having robbed, someone had killed someone. Like I've met all these people in my coaching practice. I wanted to be a stand to approve of them as a human being and shine the light of approval so they can have space and freedom to move from hidden to unhidden, to express what was inside, because I think that's where the healing is.
Man, Man, going deep right off the bat, Robert. I love this.
We're just starting. We're just starting from.
I love it. I love it. This is awesome. Great response. And I really hear that like you couldn't sit on the sidelines. That wasn't for you. That wasn't a life for you. Some people it works, but you're like, man, I got more work to do. And there's people out there who need this reflection of who I am, who I've developed myself to be, a powerful mirror, a powerful coach, a powerful leader, whatever that is, and to reflect back to them that, hey, you're still whole, perfect, and complete. You might have done some things. You might have made some choices that weren't, in your highest and best good. But now, what are you going to choose? Who are you going to show up as? Are you going to show up as love and empowerment, or are you going to show up as a victim and holding on to that past and keep dragging that with you wherever you go?
And it's annoying. It's absolutely annoying to watch people with their self-imposed limitations. People like put these little prisons on. They're like a dress or like an outfit.
Right.
They put these prisons on. You're like, I'm stuck in my prison. And then I'm like, looking. Can I swear on this?
Yes.
Look at your fucking palm. The key is there. Just like unclench your hand and unlock it. You can do it, and like, no, I'm in my prison. It's so annoying. It's like nails on the chalkboard to me. Like sometimes I have to restrain from just being like, you created this whole thing. Now we can uncreate it. All right. You want to suffer. You want to be in your pain. All right. I can respect that. I can validate that. You're on your journey. I get it. But it's annoying. So for that reason, I'm usually in a lot of conversations with people.
Yeah. Well, one thing I've found as well is people have to quote unquote be ready to take that leap to free themselves from those chains and from that self-imposed prison. And it might take enough like prying their paradigm, how they see the world apart to be able to do that. And I know that's something that we're dealing with between masculine and feminine energy today. It's like we have all these preconceived, pre-installed beliefs and notions given from us by society and given to us by society and our parents and all that stuff. Like, how do we deal with that? Like, where do we even begin with that?
Well, I have a framework that I can give you. It's a multi-step framework.
Okay.
So the first is confront. This is the most important. It's just be willing to sit and can imagine, like, we have blinders of things we don't want to see. Right. And it's called the shadow. We put things in our shadow we don't want to see. And so we have these blinders. And that could be as simple as, okay, I watch a little too much porn, or I eat too much, or I have an intimacy issue, or it could be something like, I have a drinking problem. I have a cocaine problem. I have a pot smoking problem. So it's the spectrum. It could be something small. It could be something very large. And so what we do is we non-confront it. In the non-confrontation, that runs us. So the first step of any change is just to take a moment to lower the blinders and see what resides around us. That's the first step.
Wow. So the first step is like confront what has been going on. And it starts with, it sounds like you need non-judgment. Like typically people are in a state of non-confrontation, which allows it to keep going. It sounds like the toxic behavior, self-sabotage, whatever it might be. And then we have to confront that. And to do that, we have to stop everything and just like start to be aware of what is really going on.
Yeah. It's not like total non-judgment. You just need to have one less degree. Your judgments are what create those blinders.
Right.
Like, I don't want to see that I have bisexual tendencies. I don't want to see that perhaps I'm really angry at my mom and I don't want to confront it. I don't want to see that this career I spent time and money and $100,000 of college debt is not really what I want to do. It takes just a degree to be like, okay, I need to get slightly objective, to lower the blinders a degree, to see what's possible. So it's not like an all or nothing. It's just one click, like, okay. So that's the first step.
Okay.
Second step is to investigate. And that is to pull down the blinders enough so you can play. Okay, what is the impact of my daily porn usage? What is the impact of lying to my wife? What is the impact of this secret that I haven't told my parents? Like, what is the impact? Investigate it. We live in an information-rich world. There's really no excuse anymore. Like, when I was a kid, you had to ride your bike to the library to find the Encyclopedia Britannica, to look in the card catalog. And these words might not make any sense to you, millennial, but like it was a challenge. Now we can pick up the computer in our hand and type in on Google and have vast amount of information. So investigate it. Look at it. There's some great books on all aspects. There's Facebook groups, there's papers, there's Medium articles. I mean, there's no excuse anymore to not investigate. So take the time to investigate. Don't trust everything you see, but just go out there and look and get some information. So that's step number 2.
Okay.
The third is strange in the spot, but it makes sense. You have to commit to change. Because if you want to lose an extra 10 pounds, all the confronting, investigating doesn't make a damn difference if you're not saying, okay, I'm committing to losing that 10 pounds. Maybe it's losing 2 pounds or 5 pounds. Maybe it's going to bed an hour early. Maybe it's putting down the phone one night a week in the drawer when you walk in the door and interacting with your family without screens. Yeah. Like, it's just a commitment to change.
It's a bite size, baby steps, like one step at a time. And right. It's like whatever that area is, just like one little thing, a week or a day or whatever that is, that's so powerful.
It's just a commitment. Yeah. It's like when you're on top of the mountain and you're looking down that ski slope and you see all those moguls and you're like, I'm going to die, but you still push off.
Right.
That's commitment, right? Like I saw this video of this tall diving board. I was on Facebook and we watched all these people like walk out to the edge and go back and walk back to the edge and go back.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. And so it's just like a commitment to dive off the board and jump in the pool. So that's the third step.
Okay.
The fourth step is the doing, and that's to build a practice, to have accountability inside the practice, to not do it alone. That could be a friend, that could be a 12-step meeting, that could be a coach, that could be a teacher, that could be a sibling, just some way to say, listen, I'm going on this journey of losing 10 pounds. Would you be my accountability partner? If you see me reaching for the cupcake, will you remind me? If, just have someone you can check in with. And the third is inside the practice you're building to have the right to modify it. So I once said I wanted to do 60 hot yoga classes in 70 days.
Wow.
I was going to speak at Lightning in the Bottle. This was a couple of years ago. And I was a little soft. And I said, I want to do 60 yoga classes in 70 days. And I don't know if you've done hot yoga, but it's killer, right?
Intense, yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
So like the first week went and I was dying after maybe it was the first 5 days or 6 days. I was like, no, I went. By the second week, this was negatively affecting my health, my work, my relationship, because I was so wrecked. Wow. So I was like, okay. So I modified from 60 yoga classes in 70 days to 40, which is still a lot, but doable.
Totally.
And so in that, the chances of me succeeding increased significantly, and I achieved my goal. I did my 40 yoga classes in 70 days.
Awesome.
So then you run through the cycle of whatever that commitment is. It's good. They say it takes 28 days to break a habit. I agree with this. Pick a meaning, like a short cycle, not like the rest of your life. Just pick a cycle, because success breeds success. When you complete that milestone, celebrate, debrief, what worked and what could have been improved, and then recommit if that's your desire. You can change anything in your life with these steps.
Wow, I love it, man. So the 5 steps again are confront, investigate, commit to change. 4 is doing, so do the thing. And then 5 is right to modify the commitment if it's like unreasonable or something, new data comes up that says, hey, that commitment that you made, it totally doesn't work for life.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. And I really love how practical these steps are. Totally doable, totally, like we get it, we understand it, and talking about, looking back at the habit, doing the debrief, looking, hey, what did I learn? Do I want to do this again? Am I going to be able to keep up this habit? Is this something that I want to, integrate in different ways in my life? So I really love how you're sharing all that and all the stories that you're sharing and examples. Robert, you are definitely a freaking pro at this. Love the conversation so far, man. So keep it up. Let's keep having fun and diving deep. And specifically, I want to talk about this book that you launched, and like it's the most important thing to you, man. It's like your baby that is like becoming you, right? Like tell us more about the book.
The book is called Unhidden.
Okay.
It's a book for men and those confused by them. It is a pragmatic guide for people in the 21st century on how to live. My viewpoint is that it's a very difficult time for men. And the difficult part is that the world is changing very quickly. We can go over the details of that in a second. But the world is changing a lot for men. And in that, they don't know who to be. Then they have the double trap of being privileged, especially white men are privileged. In the privilege, they don't have permission to speak out loud that they're having trouble.
Wow.
And so what they do is they grin and bear it. They're stoic. We don't show our emotions. And so we're having trouble, we're having fear, we're having angst, we don't know what to do. And instead of having permission to speak and ask questions, we shove it down. And in the shoving down, that's where more happens, more damage happens. And instead of it coming out with okay, how do we improve this? They either quit or they use arrogance or hubris or force. And then the toxic behavior comes out and there's more distance. So the book is a pragmatic guide to confront, investigate, commit, have a practice, debrief, celebrate, so men can have a pathway to how to live successfully in the 21st century.
Wow. That's freaking powerful, man. And I think you covered it so succinctly that men, we know that something doesn't feel right. We don't feel at home. We don't feel like we're accepted. There's all these movements saying that, men are too much, they're going too far. And like, it's almost like we're afraid just to be a man these days, because like that could bring with it, all kinds of consequences. So that additionally causes us to stuff it down and make us do these things that aren't healthy. So I really love what you're all about. And before we dive into that, into like, how we can do that, how we can, become unhidden, I want to go back in the journey and find out, what was it that really caused you to become this person that is a champion for men and educating men and women about this, tendency that's going on, an epidemic, so to speak, of how men aren't sure how to be in the 21st century. How did you get to this point and focusing on this?
There are several steps. Okay. I'll give you the two main ones. The first one was Burning Man in 1998. For those who don't know, Burning Man is a festival in the desert that happens every Labor Day, around Labor Day. And in 1998, it wasn't as popular as it is now. Back then, there was a mere like 18,000 people to the 75 or 80,000 people who go this year, these years. And my first wife, Carol, at the time said, let's go to Burning Man. Can we go to Burning Man? And I was like, I don't know. It's for those other people, those hippies, those massage therapists, those, like I'm a yuppie. I'm a downtown yuppie, suit and collar tie kind of guy. She's like, please. I'm like, okay. So I said, I'll go for you. Basically some, weird patriarchal thing. So, a month later, we're driving to the desert, our car, and get to the desert and roll up and got out of the car and got, stepped out. And then this breeze hit me and there were drums in the distance. And the sun was setting. And I was like, this little voice in my head said, you're home. The Field of Dreams,
Yeah.
They will come, like, you're home. And I was like, no, I'm here for Carol, you're home. And I was like, what happened, and there's a few more experiences there, but what happened for me was I saw a different side of me, a different possibility. Whereas before it was one very strong path laid out to me by my father and my ancestors, there was a new room for me to explore. And I was just like, whoa. And so that really sparked so much possibility of, my life. So that was the first step.
Man, that's incredible. And like when you were there, you felt what? Like you were able to be something more than what you had been conditioned into. You saw like a society, so to speak, operating, a group of people, community where there was a different paradigm. So it's like it kind of like broke open the visor or the blinders or whatever, the glasses, the rose-colored glasses that you had, and you said, wow, there's a different way to show up in the world that I didn't even know existed, and now I have evidence of it. Now I have proof of that there's different ways to do things.
Yeah. A weird analogy. A weird analogy just popped in my head. It was, do you ever remember eating sushi for the first time? Like, sushi was like raw fish.
Foreign.
Like, like, ew. And then you taste it for the first time. You're like, oh my God, this is delicious. That's kind of what it was like. I was like, oh, they're so dirty and like so much judgment, so much yuppie judgment. I got there and I was like, oh my God, this is so much fun. It was like epic fun, and a different part of me arose. And I did some illegal substances for the first time. There's another funny story I'll tell you. So I was back in 1998, I was really into porn. And then in 1998, the internet was relatively new, and porn at that time was images and news groups where you could read erotic fiction. There
Wow.
was no video back then at all, basically. So, because the download rates were crazy.
Right.
So, so I was a very big advocate, enjoying of news group porn, and I was very secretive. No one knew about this little hobby of mine. So my wife would go out, and I'd dial up, beep, 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 and go find my search for the good porn, and I'd masturbate, and I was really into it, and I was really into group sex and multiple partner sex. No one knew. So and my sex life with my first wife was very vanilla and very infrequent. Like, we didn't have any skills in terms of sexuality. So the second day of Burning Man, she says, "Hey, there's this camp that does orgies. Do you want to go?" I was like, yeah,
I can
really,
do that.
Yeah, if you want to, for you. And I was just like, wow. And all day I'm thinking, the place was called Delilahs Den. I'm just like, Delilahs. I'm really excited to go. And it was just, Delilahs. And all day. And so, 11 o'clock at night, we ride across the playa on our bikes and get to Delilahs Den. You can hear the music, boom, boom, boom. I'm expecting like naked bodies and sex and all these women. I'm going to make out with someone. And we walk up and we open up the tent doors, and there are 300 guys and 3 women, me and Carol. And I was like, Delilahs, like. So we walked around. Carol was very popular. All of a sudden, I was not so popular. And we left, 5 minutes after that. And then, but then most interesting happened was we started to walk around and we started talking. We started talking about our sex life. And we had the first honest conversation ever around sex. I had never talked to really any of my friends. Like I may have like little man guy talk with sex, but never about my fear, my thoughts. And then we started talking about desire. And she said, and I said to her, like, I don't think you're the last woman in my life I want to kiss. And she's like, oh, you're not the last guy in my life I want to kiss. I was like, really? And all of us, it was really? And it was just like back and forth. And we just kept talking, and one truth led to another. And my whole life was changed from that whole conversation, because I saw the negative impact of hiding, the negative impact of living hidden, was that I never even gave Carol the chance to know me and to know this part of me. So it was a pretty amazing experience.
Wow, that's incredible, man. So you had this new freedom, and it really, you had to be like put in a situation where like there's an environment that's something completely unordinary in our normal culture to be able to feel expressed, to be able to finally keep it from, being pushed down. You're like, man, I just like it came out, like it's like totally just be able to share it powerfully and self-expressed without fear of judgment or being rejected. It's like, we're just going to share our truths right now, and that's what we're committed to. That's freaking powerful, man. Yeah,
it was a really life changer. I mean, so grateful. That relationship didn't last more than 7 years, but it was such an amazing experience, like so amazing. So I'm so grateful for that experience.
Beautiful. So you went there. Was there anything else big that happened, or that was like the first chapter, the first opening and awakening for you?
Well, I did a little illegal substance that expanded my mind. For those in the know, expanded my mind. I was terrified of drugs and plant medicine before. Like, I really bought all the 80s, drugs will kill you, and drugs you'll have a bad trip. And so I did these little illegal substances, and then we wandered around the camp, the playa, for like 3 hours, and it was amazing. And the conversations, and there was a guy walked around with a cow outfit, and when he's hitting on Carol, and I was like, have a great time. And he's like, I'm here to save the day. And I was just like, go for it. And, that was another big part of my mind. And that's, been in my life since then. So it's really grateful, because again, I was born to live in this little box, and I was really successful in the box. I was really good at being a good citizen. And then I discovered that I was much bigger than that box.
Yes.
And it's been a really epic journey since then. A really painful at times, a really dangerous at times. Like, I invested all the money. I got, my dad disowned me when I was 30.
Wow.
I've had a raucous relationship with my family, but and what the outcome is that I am my own man now. I love who I am, and I love what I do, and I love what I share. And so it's been a very challenging journey, but a really important one.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's something that a lot of people, men especially, are afraid of, is like letting the people around them down and, breaking their hearts or not meeting expectations, not measuring up, so to speak. So they just do what is expected of them and told to them. And they live this like quiet desperation life. So you finally started standing up for yourself at 30. It sounds like you were really, really going for it. And that's what caused the energy to break between you and your dad and your family and stuff. So what was it like during those times that really had you catapult, especially your masculinity and mastering that and diving into that? Like, what was it and how did you do that?
Let's see. So that was the first experience.
Mm-hmm.
The second experience was about 7 months later.
Mm-hmm.
I took my first class on sex.
Mm.
So we had committed to this conversation. And we hadn't done much on it, so we took a class with a guy named Erwan Devan, who's based in San Francisco. He's still teaching. He's amazing.
Okay.
And so walk into this class again, total newbie, and nervous and scared, like because I was so out of my element when it came down to it. So then, and you do the introductions. We're in this circle, with me, Carol, about 15, 18 other people, a lot of attractive women taking a class on sex. Again, my little porn-infested mind was like, ooh, what's possible? What's possible? And then, so we're doing introductions. I think I went first or maybe second. And I do my introduction, and I just started talking. And I said this thing, and then what happened was I finished, and I really expected like everyone to applaud. I expected the teacher to say, come up and teach with me. And like, I thought I really nailed it. And instead he said, hey, do you know your wife's crying? And she was sitting right here, right next to me, crying. And I had been so in my own ego. I had been so chauvinistic and so misogynistic that she was sitting 8 inches away from me and I had no awareness. And then Erwan, that guy, said, okay, who's next? And I was in the burn of my deep, deep embarrassment. He didn't coach me around it. He just let me burn in it.
Wow.
He's a good friend of mine, a client of mine, actually. Him and his wife, Alicia, amazing people. Anyway, so I sat in the burn of it. And then, I had two choices. One was to stand up, demand Carol come with me, or just leave and go back to the status quo. The other option was to sit in the burn and learn and commit it. That was my commitment. I was going to understand this part of me. And that was, again, one of those second doors of my entire life changing from that moment of just saying, yes, I want to know and I want to grow and I want to learn how to relate to women. I want to understand these parts of myself. Yeah. And it's been truly amazing.
Wow, that's incredible. So it's like the willingness, like you saw the perspective open up when you went to Burning Man, and then you had to make the conscious choice and decision and willingness to subject yourself to potential humiliation and feeling like crap and not enough and blah, 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 all that stuff coming up, bubbling up. And you made the decision that, hey, whatever comes up, I'm going to deal with it. But I'm more committed to mastering this relationship thing and women in my life than, being egotistical and being righteous and playing it safe and running out of this room and protecting myself.
Yeah. I don't know if I knew that all at the moment.
Right.
I think at some level I was like doing the math. I mean, really what happened to me was one of those movie montages where you see your arrogance and chauvinism, like just click, 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 click. And I was just like, oh, because I really, before that montage, I was like, this is Erwan's fault. He did this to me. Or that was Carol's fault. She's like, this is the people's fault. No one, and I was just like, wait a minute. I was smart enough in the moment or had some awareness, lowered my blinders enough to be like, okay, this is you. This is you. Yeah. Okay, what do you want to do with it? And I was like, all right, let's sit. And March 20th, 1999, that was the date, almost 20 years ago, and I could still remember the sensation of the burn. But it was such an important moment in my life.
Wow. So that happened, and then how did you get into the diving into masculinity?
So from there, we did another 3 or 4 years with teachers. I met a woman named Nicole Dedone. we started an organization called One Taste in 2004.
Mhm.
One Taste taught about conscious sexuality, intimacy, relating, and communication. I was the chief operating officer, partner. I taught classes. I was a coach. I learned on the street, basically, in the doing. Ran the men's program and really fell in love with the process. And it was a student at the same time, like really getting my ass kicked on a daily basis by this research community. We lived communally. At one point, we had a warehouse where 50 of us lived, did sexual research.
Wow.
At the end, I was traveling around the world teaching. It turned into an 8-figure international business by the time I left, and really built it from point A to point B. And during that time, I just fell in love with teaching and sharing. And I found over time, my greatest thing was just using myself as the test crash dummy and really getting into the minds of men. So in that tenure of 10 years, I think I taught around 10,000 students, 400 workshops, probably 700 or 800 groups. So I was pretty much working all the time while running the business, and just learned the details of it from great teachers and learned from my students, learned from my own path. Nicole is a brilliant researcher and writer, and came up with the concepts and we implemented them. So I did that for 10 years, left in 2014. Like I said, came back to Venice and just started my own shingle, started my own practice.
What inspired you to start your own, go out on your own?
I left One Taste in 2014 because I was burnt out. There were I just wasn't living the life I wanted to live.
Right.
Because it was like the army. It was like, hey, Rob, we want you to move to London tomorrow. No joke. Like the London chief left or quit.
Right.
And I was happy in my little Los Angeles life and had a yoga practice. I was dating a woman. I had a great room. I had my setup. And they're like, we need you to go to London tomorrow. And I was like, all right. So I went to, Ross, bought a big suitcase, packed my shit in it, and got on a plane and flew to London.
Wow.
And that happened constantly. And so about a year before I left, I made the decision because I got moved on a whim from Los Angeles to San Francisco. And I was like, I don't want to live this life anymore. It's burning me out. I was developing ulcers. I was having illness. I was burnt out. I wasn't sleeping. I was overweight. And I was just like, this isn't for me anymore. So I left on great terms, negotiated a good deal, left them in good spot. And went on my own.
That's awesome. So like when you were working for someone else or with another cause, you didn't have enough like control or say over what you were willing to do and wanted to do. And when you created your own company, your own stuff, then you felt like you finally had that control and that ability to, create your reality, create your environment, your schedule, all that stuff.
Yeah. I was part of a collective. And even though I was owner and COO and directed things, I was really not at the control of my own life. So I had just submitted, I'd surrendered to another and the organization. Right. No victim here. This is my choice. And a lot of things we were doing and a lot of person I was being, I just was not in agreement with. And it was good for the company. Like it was the right direction for the company. It was the wrong direction for me. And so I didn't have a better solution. It's not like I said, we should do X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And I was just like, okay, if I can't change the situation, I can change me. Yeah. I made a decision a year before leaving that I wanted to leave. And so I spent that year building systems and handing over and training people. Nice. So by the time I left, I really was replaceable by the time I left, and hopefully left it in a good spot.
Yeah, that's awesome. So moving into your own practice and, creating your own show and all this stuff, like what happened with that? How did that all unfold?
Really organically and really from a kid in a laboratory trying to figure stuff out.
Yeah.
Like, I left One Taste and I was in Venice Beach, California. Money really wasn't a problem. So I was very lucky, luckier than most. I had a runway to decide. And so I was just trying to figure stuff out. And I was like, okay, I'll have a practice. I'll be a life coach. I'll be a business coach. And I'll charge really low rates to figure this thing out, like ridiculous rates. And then I was teaching workshops. I was like, oh, I'll go back to teaching workshops. And then I hated it. I hated running and rolling workshops. And I was like, okay, no more workshops. And then I was like, I still want to say stuff. Oh, I'll do a podcast. There's podcasts. So I got like a mic, not even this one, a really kind of crap. I didn't even have a mic. I had my laptop in Venice Beach, California, with hardwoods, with Finnegan the dog and the Venice Fire Department like half a mile away. And so it was like the worst sound quality known to mankind. And I was just doing shows, and I was like, I'll just figure it out. So that was 3 years ago, and now I'm on show 180, I think it is. I love it. I've built a six-figure consulting business. I've written a book that's due in 3 weeks, et cetera, et cetera. So it's been a really amazing experience.
Wow, so amazing, man. So tell us what the book came from. When did you get the inspiration to create the book, and like how did the book writing process unfold?
The book is Morgan's fault. My wife got married about a year ago to the most amazing woman who is my muse and my inspiration.
Yeah.
So about the end of 2016, when I was in transition, she said, you have to write a book. I was like, I don't want to write a book. She's like, you got to write a book. I was like, I don't want to write a book. She's like, fine. So you have to write a book. I was like, okay. And then I flashed at the end of 2016. I was like, okay, I'm going to write a book. So I took the podcast and I took my top 25, 28 episodes, transcribed them, and then rewrote them in English instead of my rant speak, rewrote in English and had a manuscript within 3 or 4 months, like a 30,000 word, 35,000 word manuscript. So then I went to Hay House, is Writer's Workshop. Hay House is a big publishing of many people I respect. And then I went to the workshop, and they said one person in the audience will get a book contract without an agent, with a contest. So write a book proposal, and one person will win 6 months later. So I was like, all right, I'll try it. What the hell? So I hired a friend of mine, Kelly Notaris of KN Literary Arts. She just came out with her own book, and someone I really respect and really feel indebted to. And so I wrote this book proposal. I hired her company to help me write the book proposal. She also contributed, and she read my proposal. And it was really a book. It was Tuff Love, Evolutionary Practices for Modern Times, which I still think is a cool title. Right. And she said, and she read my book proposal, and she's like, this is the part I like the most. It was like one line. She says, we live behind optimized social media profiles. She said, that's the juiciest part of the whole book. Yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. And she's like, you should write a book for men. I was like, really? She's like, yeah. There's not a lot of books in the space by men for men. I was like, you should do that. And I'm like, cool. And she's like, you should call it Unhidden. I'm like, that's amazing. And so she totally took this, manuscript and offered me a higher level game. And I loved it. I fell in love with it from the moment. So Morgan was the motivation, the muse. Kelly was really the spark to take my energy, and knowing me, she knows me really well, focusing me in the right direction. And so from there, I wrote a proposal for Unhidden. Hay House said no, mostly because they have like 95% women readers. So like, we can't write for a book for here. They said it's a really great proposal. And so then I decided, should I look for another agent? I was like, no, I don't want to wait 2 years. So I just decided to self-publish. And so then I had a really cool writing process, and then I started January 1st of this year with the first draft. I've written 8 drafts of the book.
Dang.
Yeah.
Wow. What? Tell us about that. Why?
So I had a really cool way of doing it, the book, and this is because this bases my personality. So what I did is I had this big 8-foot whiteboard in my office. Yeah. And I had my book proposal that was rejected by Hay House, and so I took the 32 chapters and I put them in rows, and then I went through all my interviews and all my writings and everything I had, and I just started attaching viewpoints to each chapter. Like, oh, that would fit in there, and that would fit in there. And so by the end, after this 2-month process, I had my whiteboard full of the 28 chapters. Then I transcribed that to a software called Trello, which is a project management software. And then on January 1st, I just kept going through each chapter and writing it. So it was very easy. So I wrote 60,000 words in 4 months. Wow. Because it wasn't like a blank slate. It just was. So the problem was, or the challenge was, that I'd written 32 mini books. There was no flow between them.
Do you think writers might experience that in their own book creation process, or is that something that you think is unique to you?
I think it happens. It depends on what kind of writer you are. To me, it was like, 28 Medium articles, because each chapter was anywhere from 1,200 to 3,000 words. So it was like 32 articles, but there was no real flow between them. So then I hired a book coach, and she helped me optimize it and cut and add and ask questions, so that 60,000 book turned into 83,000 words.
Wow.
Over another couple of months.
Wow.
Then we edited it in 3 and edited in 4, and then I sent it out, this 84,000 book, to 8 readers, 8 people I trusted, and they all came back with very similar feedback. The content is great. It's bloated. It's hard to read. It's confusing. I don't know where to go. It's following. Then they added things like, your privilege is showing, your arrogance is showing. I was like, oh, my ego is getting kicked. It's like, I'm down, they're kicking me. And I was just like, okay. And so I was so grateful, because I picked the right people to give me that feedback. So grateful. So then what I did is I took that 80,000 word and took it and broke it into the 80 or 90 subtopics, again to my whiteboard, redid it, and then patched it, like basically ripped it all apart into pieces and put it back, and then reassembled it into a different version, and have improved on it since then. So it's a really interesting, because when you write, you're so close to it. But when you have really good, trusted feedback, it's made it so much better. So now it's 48,000 words, probably 160, 170 pages, and it's tight. It's tight and it's organized. And so awesome. I can't wait to send it out into the world.
I love it. So in terms of the flow of the book, did you see something change from the 80,000 words to the, I'm sure you did, but specifically, like, what did you see in terms of the, start point and end destination of the first versions, and then where it is now? Is it pretty much the same? It's just the journey in between is different, or how do you see the differences?
What I did in version 4, version 5, I took that framework that I described, and I was like, oh, this is like the hero's journey. I can use this as a framework for the book. So I basically stuck it, like jammed it. And I was like, jammed all the things into, and that really was confusing to people. Because they're like, what is this framework? And I kind of get it. And so I basically jammed it together. And I was like, okay, that didn't work. So in the pulling apart, I took 4 of the pieces of the framework, the confront, the investigate, the practice, and the afterwards, basically, and I made it into 4 sections instead of the 6 or 7 I had, and then I pulled out all the extraneous stuff, the stuff that I read that didn't zing, and in the reading from this perspective of like what inflames my body, what really energized, and there was a lot of victims. There was and so I pulled out anything that wasn't electric and put it into the framework. And so it's been so much fun. Like, it was hard. It's so hard. It's so many hours, so much ego, but like, it's been so much fun to be like, to really say this story is redundant, or this story doesn't quite land. And so I still have the text to use in a different book or a blog article. It's not going to get wasted. But so now it's tight. It's tight.
That's awesome. Awesome. So as far as from beginning to end, what you feel the readers will experience by reading the book, tell us a little bit more about that, like the biggest takeaways that they'll get from going through it, and specifically who should read it as well.
Well, I have a cheeky title, Unhidden, a book for men and those confused by them. Which I designed to mean everyone. So I wanted to communicate that this is predominantly for men, because there are some great men's books out there, but there's not a lot of great men's books out there.
Right.
Way of the Superior Man, of course, No More Mr. Nice Guy, Man Up. There's, like 6 or 7 really great books out there that I've really enjoyed. The Truth by Neil Strauss, which isn't really a book for men, though it's a really epic men's journey. A beautiful book by Neil. So I wanted to write a book, a pragmatic book, so men can read it and be like, oh, that's what's been going on, and I didn't really know that, or wow, I'm not the only one with that thought, or okay, now like I said, there's a section on jealousy. Like, I think jealousy is a superpower, something to energize you. Most people are fearful of jealousy. They think it's the worst thing to avoid. I'm like, no, embrace it. And so there's a section on that. There's a section on communication. There's something about self-esteem and how we're, external validation junkies. And so there's just pragmatic, short, tight guides in there and concepts. Then there's practices. There's 5 or 6 practices where you can look there and practice it online. I have an online portal I'm building. And then there's a section for those confused by men, 6 or 7 essays that really just say, this is why he's doing it. This is what you can do. This is your part in the situation. And they're pretty tough love. They're pretty direct, but it's really for people to get information and then have a pragmatic way to build a practice, to commit and have a practice so they can up-level their lives.
I see you holding your hands on your heart. What's that about, man?
Oh, this is my baby.
I love it.
This is my baby. Like, because it's like so annoying when guys are. I'm just gonna say this. Like, there's a section of the book. It says, "Guys are dumb, women are angry." Okay. I was dumb, really dumb, numb and dumb. I called myself. So I am head of the class. But guys are dumb, and guys are getting dumber, and women are getting angrier. And the angrier women get, the less they tell men, and the dumber guys get. Wow. And then the more angry women get. So we have this cycle. Yeah. And I watch guys be really dumb. And I'm just like, no, don't touch her like that, or don't say that, or do you hear the hubris in your voice, or like, don't condescend. And I still make mistakes. I'm not trying to say I'm through it. I messed up with my wife last week. So but still, it's just like, guys are dumb, and I have the solution. So I just want guys to be less dumb and women to be less angry, because there's a lot of healing that needs to happen. Yeah. And if a guy can be hipped up by me so she can treat his woman better, then she'll be a little nicer and tell him a little more truth. And then I can change the world. That's the feeling. Yes. Yeah.
Man, I feel that emanating from you, oozing out of you. And like when you go back to that source, that center, and you feel into that possibility and what you're capable of, and what this book is capable of, and what this knowledge and wisdom is able to do. I really feel you tapping into that. That's amazing, man.
Thank you. Grateful for that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So as far as being able to communicate better, let's talk about that. What do guys not know about communication?
A lot. So I'll pull the lens back a little bit. So people, not just men, people are trained to be mediocre communicators. We're not trained to be powerful communicators. So we're taught to withhold, to lie, to minimize, to make ourselves small. They can't handle it. We use communication to impose power and position. Pretty much everyone across the board is not trained to be good communicators, and I see it left and right. So I have a set of concepts around communication, and it's really just the first step to learn to communicate is to confront that you're not a good communicator. Let's call a spade, and to make a commitment to say, I want to be a better communicator. So if I could say anything, it's listen intently. It's called active listening. When you're listening to someone, you're not thinking in your head in the middle what you're going to say to restate your position, or to, if you look at politics, it's horrible to watch. It's nothing, there's no intimacy. It's antagonistic. There's no collaboration. And so we're constantly, because we live in the state of fear of loss, or we live in scarcity, we don't speak from abundance or collaborative. So when you take the time to active listen, to listen intently, you can hear and see so much more when you're not active listening. In the hearing, you can put more attention, you can reflect more, you can be more intimate, and that provides the other person with a feeling that they can active listen. Right. In the active listening, then there's connection. That's one. The second thing is stop lying. Stop lying. And I have withholding as lying. So stop lying. We all lie to each other constantly. we're all telling half truths, quarter truth, eighth truth, 16th truths, white lies. We're not telling the truth. So stop lying. And I'm not saying you have to be 100%. Take one more truth. My whole life was changed on that playa with Carol when we told each other one truth. My whole life has changed. This whole book was based on Morgan being like, "Yeah, write a book." It's based on those little one telling the truth.
Yeah.
And the third one is reward the other person for the truth, even if it stings.
Yeah.
We have a really bad habit of punishing people for the truth they tell us, which of course has them lie and withhold, which decreases intimacy.
Yeah. What do you think it is that makes us want to keep lying?
Well, one, we've been shamed from birth for parts of ourselves that are not part of the box of the status quo. And we all have some degree of us that don't fit into that box. Some people embrace it, most people don't. And so they live inside the box and then they're afraid. Where are men allowed to show emotions? Death, mostly of pets, sporting games,
right?
And that's about it. Sports and dead pets. That's about the only time we're really truly allowed to show emotion. And so we have these rules, and so what we do is we hide. We create facades, and then we have masks, and then our facades are interacting with our facades, and no one really seeing each other. So we have fear. We have fear of really coming out and being seen, because our entire lives we've been shamed, and our parents have been shamed by their parents, and so we have this historical societal box that we live in. And so when you say to your partner, I want to hear everything inside of you. I want to reward you. I may be uncomfortable. This may trigger me. I may have a reaction, but regardless, thank you for your truth. Thank you. I'm sorry that I've been withholding. I'm sorry that I haven't made it safe. Let's just today, one little topic, one little thing, money, sex, job, where you want to retire to. Let that one truth out, and then one truth begets another truth, enforces another truth, and all of a sudden you're actually in honest relationship with your intimate friends.
Wow, that's powerful. So being able to just say, hey, let's sit down and have just one conversation.
Yeah.
For the people who are afraid of that, uncovering and exposing all the lies and the pain and the shame and the guilt and everything that they've been suppressing and hiding, how can we encourage them to take it on with that fear of everything they're possibly their entire life unraveling?
I have a framework for that.
Okay.
So let's say I've been withholding something from you.
Okay.
Pointing to Chris, if you're okay. So I've known this thing. So I say, Chris, can we set aside a time for us to talk? Now you'll probably say, what's it about? What's it about? What's it about? And I'll be like, I can tell you, but I really want to wait when we have some intimate, quiet time. You're like, okay, how about tomorrow? Great. Okay. So you set up the intimate time. No kids, no phones, no music, no TV, no distractions, no time limit if you can, or a long enough time limit. And you just sit in physical proximity. If it's appropriate to touch, if your partner, hold your partner's hand, look them in the eye, be vulnerable. And here's the counterintuitive part. Apologize. Chris, I want to apologize for the thing I'm about to tell you. I've been withholding this for about a year or 6 months or a month or whatever it is. I've been withholding it. My motivation for withholding it is because I was afraid of your reaction. I was afraid of you rejecting me. I was afraid that you would think this, but it's been inside of me. And I've noticed that it's been a block to our intimacy. So space, vulnerability, apology, acknowledgement, letting the other person know the motivation. Then say the thing you've been withholding in as little words as humanly possible. This is not a lifelong essay. This is the thing I've been withholding. I've been sneaking watching porn, and I haven't been telling you, and I wanted you to know. That's it. Now, Don't say anything. Let the truth land in the middle of you, and then give the other person, give Chris space to speak the impact. That could be as like, okay, whatever. Or it could be like, wow, I feel betrayed. And then have a dialogue between the two of you. Okay, what does that bring up for you? I thought we were honest about everything, and I feel like this is cheating, and even though it's another person, blah, blah, blah. Until you go back into a dialogue and keep talking until the truth lies flat.
Wow. That is powerful. So the framework, again, is to set up a space and to really say, I want to apologize first off, and I've been withholding something, and my motivation for withholding it is blank, and here's the thing I've been withholding. And then you let it land, and then the person has a chance to respond, and whatever that response is, then you create dialogue and communication from there to say, like, probably we want to restate at some point our commitment, what we're committed to, what we want to have come from this interaction, who we really want to show up as in the relationship, in the communication moving forward, right?
Right. Well, the intention of the whole thing is to communicate that me being intimate with you, my desire to remove this withheld communication is more important than my fear of your response or the result of the communication. I am saying to you, this relationship is more important.
Wow.
And these could be really simple things. These could be really challenging things. This communication could break up the relationship. I am not over here saying this is guaranteed to make everything nice at the end. This could end the relationship. But to me, it's more important to live in authentic relating, in truthful relating, rather than the prison of the withhold and risk the relationship than live in the watered down mediocrity that most of us live in because we live behind our withholds. And that's a choice.
Damn. So powerful, man. This is awesome. This is such a powerful framework for confronting those things. And hey, if the relationship ends, then that person was unable to deal with the communication.
Right.
And that's their stuff. It's like it's their choice. If they want to stay with someone and say, "Hey, am I willing to extend my trust again?" No, okay, then then we get to go our separate ways, and I get to learn this very painful lesson, but at least I don't take this with me every single day, bearing the shame and the guilt and whatever, and into the next relationship I know myself as an honest person, because the reason why my last relationship ended is because I was an honest person. But I'd rather be honest and grounded in myself and who I am than, like you said, that prison of withhold.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's another side of it. That person receiving it has co-created the space that this is being withheld. So my first wife cheated on me the night before our engagement party.
No.
She had sex with an ex-boyfriend. No. By the way, I've checked with her, asking permission for these stories. She said yes. Okay. So she cheated on me, and she held it for a year. And in that year, there was a degradation of our first year of marriage, or for 6 months of marriage, degrading of relating. And I had no idea what was going on because I was totally numb and dumb. But anyway, she told me. And then I had the feelings, and I had the usual male response, and higher than thou, blah, blah, blah. And then after a couple of minutes, I said, wow, I feel more upset that you didn't tell me and the loss of intimacy for a year than the actual thing. And did I not make it safe for you to tell me the truth? And I was like, whoa. It was like one of those epic moments.
Wow.
of just like, oh, like I've co-created the situation.
Yeah.
So that's what I teach. We co-create these prisons that we both live in. And so again, it's not the initial conversation for the person receiving to see their side. It really is on the first person to sit, apologize, be vulnerable, tell the truth, let the other person have the impact. And then that could take days, that could be weeks, that could be months of work. And if the other person wants to up-level themselves and the relationship, they could be like, what did I do, or what didn't I do to have them feel safe enough to tell me? That's mastery in itself.
Man, so powerful. So, Rob, we're beginning to wrap up now, and we want to hear the final takeaway that you want our audience to get from this specific interview. What can we take action on right now?
There are places in the world that people are truly imprisoned. They really do not have freedom of choice. And a lot of women do not have freedom of choice. This is not the message to them. For the rest of us, most of us on Facebook watching or listening, I believe that you have a lot more choice than you're willing to confront. And if you're stuck in a situation that's not meeting your dreams or optimized or heading in the direction of what you want, and you feel imprisoned, then I just say open your palm and look at the key. Look for the key, because the key is there. And the only person stopping you from having the life you want is you. And so it may not be easy. It may be going back to school. It might be ending a relationship. It might be telling the truth. It might be kicking alcohol, not having porn in your life, like whatever. I'm not saying it's easy, but you actually can change your life with your commitment to change. And I just want to say, I've done it. I've watched thousands of other people do it. And if you truly want to change, it's possible.
Boom. And they definitely want to change, Robert. How can they stay connected with you? How can they get access to this book when it comes out? And by the way, for everyone watching this live, it's November and your book is coming out in December. And by the time the podcast airs, it'll definitely be out, correct?
Yes. Cool. Everything can be found at robertkandell.com. Okay. I'm doing my own 12-hour madness on December 6th. I bow to your mastery here. So December 6th, I'll be doing it. Awesome. Everything can be found at robertkandell.com. And that's where my podcast, my writing, you can buy the book, communication courses, a communication workbook. There's a lot of stuff on there coming. So thank you so much for your interest.
Mastery, Robert. I love it, dude. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing your heart, just being real, genuine, and you're out to do a really, really big thing for the world. And I fully support you. And everyone who's listening or watching, definitely stay connected with Robert because he's up to big things. Get his book, robertkandell.com/book. Get access to that and take his other trainings and other courses too, because he's a freaking powerhouse. Just in this conversation, I hear your mastery with language, your mastery with creating your reality, and we all could use more people like you in our life, Robert. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. We'll see you soon, okay?
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.